Today I'm going to show you how to make two different dishes with little neck clams, baked clams and steamed clams. Let's start with our baked clams. The first thing we have to do is we have to clean and shuck our clams. Okay, so this is a clam. A clam is a bivalve in the mollusk family, and you can cook them while they are closed, but we're going to make a baked clam, and so we have to open them. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to wash them. They have a lot of sand and grit in them, so they need to be washed and cleaned before we open them to get any of that sand off of the outside. I like to submerge them in a little bit of water before I open them because that causes them to relax, and so they won't be as hard to open. So now I'm going to get ready to open them. You're going to get a clam knife. A clam knife has a thin blade and a rounded tip. The blade is not sharp, but you can still hurt yourself with it. You're going to put the clam into your palm and you're going to push the blade in between the two shells of the clam, and then you're going to turn the knife, and that's going to help you to open it. Now, for safety reasons, I really should be having a towel in my hand, but I don't. So please, if you ever try this, put a towel in your hands to help you open this a little bit more safely. So after you pry it open, you turn your knife. So put it in between the two shells of the clam, push in, turn your knife to open it a little bit further, and then you're going to cut the flesh away from the top and the bottom of the clam shell. Okay. Now for baked clams, you can either leave the clams in here and then put a topping on them, or take them out and chop them. I'm going to take them out and chop them. If you like raw clams, you can eat them at this stage. Just make sure that you get them from a reputable fishmonger. If any of your clams are opened like this one and you press it closed and it doesn't stay closed, that means that the clam is dead and you need to discard it. You cannot eat it. Okay, so if it doesn't stay closed, that means it's dead and it should be discarded. Even with cracked shells, you should discard those as well. See how this one is completely closed? That means it's still alive and it is safe to eat. So I'm just going to make sure that I clean any loose pieces of shell away from my clam shell and my meat. And I'm just going to take the meat out of the shell. I am making baked clams, but I'm going to chop the clams first. So I have to make sure I detach it from the shell, and it's always attached on the two sides that I just pointed to in the clam. So let's finish up these baked clams. I have a dozen little neck clams that are shucked, a tablespoon of onions minced, 2 cloves of garlic minced, a slice of bacon that's cooked and minced, a tablespoon of chicken stock or clam juice if you have any extra, half a cup of seasoned breadcrumbs, a tablespoon of Parmesan cheese, half a teaspoon each of dried parsley and oregano, 2 teaspoons of lemon juice, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and salt and pepper to taste. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cook my onions and my garlic cloves. I minced them really very small, so they're going to cook rather fast in my 1 tablespoon of olive oil. I'm going to save that 2nd tablespoon of olive oil for when we are putting the dish together. I'm just going to saute those a little bit. I don't want them to get brown, but I want to get that bacon a little bit crispy, and I want those onions and that garlic translucent. While that's cooking, I'm going to chop my clams, reserving the liquid or the clam juice on the side. You can use that to help moisten your stuffing for your baked clams. After I chop these, I'm going to start to mix them with the rest of the ingredients. I'm adding my lemon juice, my other tablespoon of olive oil, my dried herbs, my Parmesan cheese, my breadcrumbs. I'm also going to add my chicken stock, clam juice if you have extra, and my cooked onions, garlic, and bacon. And I'm going to stir them all together with my chopped clams, just to make sure that they're combined well. If you wanted to add an egg at this point, you also could do that. That would give your stuffing a little bit more moisture if that's the consistency that you're going to be looking for. After I season, I'm going to start to stuff the clams, and I put about a tablespoon of the stuffing in each of these clam shells. I did rinse these clam shells again just to make sure any loose pieces of shell were removed, and I dried them, and now I am stuffing them. So this recipe made 12 baked clams. I put them in my oven, 350 degrees, for about 10 to 12 minutes until they're nice and golden brown on the top. When I took them out, I served them right away with a lemon wedge. I know I have a lime wedge there, that's all I had. Next up is going to be our steamed clams. This makes 12 steamed clams. This is a delicious appetizer, or is also great served over pasta. So I have a dozen little neck clams that are unopened, 2 tablespoons of butter that I'm going to divide 1 tablespoon now, 1 tablespoon at the end, 1 tablespoon of olive oil, 1 scallion sliced, a tablespoon of shallots minced, 3 cloves of garlic minced, a 1/4 cup of white wine, a 1/2 cup of chicken stock. If you don't have white wine, you can actually use 3/4 of a cup of chicken stock, a tablespoon of lemon juice, a tablespoon of fresh parsley chopped, and at the end I put in 2 slices of grilled or toasted bread. So let's get this going. I'm going to put a tablespoon of olive oil and 1 tablespoon of my butter into the bottom of my pan, and I'm going to let that butter melt and let the pan come up to temperature slowly. Once that butter is melted, and it doesn't have to be sizzling, it just needs to be melted. The pan does not need to be extremely hot because I don't want to burn anything. I'm going to add my scallions, my shallots, and my garlic cloves. And I'm going to let them cook until they are nice and tender. So I'm going to sweat them in this butter and garlic until they are translucent in color. And you just want to watch the temperature on your pan. You want to make sure that it is not too high because we do not want to burn these ingredients because that will completely change the flavor of the dish. I'm going to season them with a little bit of salt and pepper. And now that they're nice and translucent, I smell that aroma of that garlic. I'm going to add my clams right to the pot. I'm going to give them a quick stir, just making sure that I get a little bit of that oil on to the outside of the clams, and then I'm going to add my liquids. I'm going to add my chicken stock, my wine, my lemon juice, and once those ingredients are added, I'm going to put the lid on it and I'm going to let them steam for about 5 minutes. I'm going to open up the lid. I'm going to check to see how they are. If all of them are opened, I'm ready for my next step, but they are still closed, some of them, which means they are not cooked yet. So I'm just going to give it about 1 or 2 more minutes. I'm going to open up the lid one more time. I can see that they're all completely opened now. I'm actually going to shut the flame off and I'm going to add my last couple of ingredients. I'm going to add my parsley and I'm going to add my cold butter. And I'm just going to let that butter melt into the sauce. It's going to help give flavor and also it's going to help give it a nice shiny finish. All right, so you can see my clams are all finished. The total cooking time was about 7 minutes. And right now I am actually toasting a couple of pieces of Italian bread that I'm going to put on the bottom of my serving dish for when I'm ready to serve this. If you are serving pasta, you would be getting your pasta into the bowl at this point so you can serve the pasta with these delicious clams nice and hot. So here's my 2 pieces of bread. I'm just going to place my clams right on top of the bread. Sometimes the clam meat falls out during the cooking process. You may have to find it in your sauce that's still in the pot. I'm going to pour that sauce right over the bread. And this is my delicious appetizer of steamed clams. If you wanted to add a little bit of tomato sauce to this sauce as well, you can do that for another added layer of flavor. So, I hope you enjoyed these 2 recipes of baked clams and steamed clams today. There's many different ways to make clams, and these are just 2 of them. Don't forget to give this video a like, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell for notifications for when we post new videos. Thanks for watching.